Okay, let's just jump right into this. By now, you've probably played around with ChatGPT. I mean, it's completely taken the world by storm, right? You ask it to write a haiku about AI or, a breaking news article about a leaf falling from a tree, and it just does it. Instantly. It feels like absolute magic. But today, in this explainer, we are going to strip away that magic entirely. We're going to fundamentally understand how this system actually works by doing something pretty ambitious. We are going to walk through how to build a miniature version of it, right from scratch. We're going to finally peek inside that black box. To kick things off, we really have to pose the core mystery here. How does an AI actually write that haiku, or that news article? If you watch ChatGPT generate a response, you'll notice it types it out sequentially. It moves from left to right, literally word by word. It doesn't, formulate a whole grand thought in one go. It's really just predicting what should come next, based entirely on what it's already written. So, the absolutely crucial point is this definition right here. ChatGPT is what we call a language model. It's not a sentient being hiding in a server. It is a probabilistic system. It models a sequence of characters or words, which we call tokens in the biz, and its entire job, its singular purpose in life, is to predict exactly what comes next to complete that sequence. You give it the start of a sentence, and it acts as this massive probability engine just trying to figure out the most likely continuation. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. Inside the ChatGPT black box. 2. Breaking down the language. 3. The power of self-attention. 4. Building the transformer architecture. And 5. From babbling to assistant. Let's go.
Section 1. Inside the ChatGPT black box.
To train our miniature model, we're going to use a tiny 1 megabyte dataset containing all the works of William Shakespeare. But here's the thing. Neural networks don't actually read English. They only read numbers. So we have to tokenize the text. That means translating raw text strings into integers. We'll use really simple character-level tokens, just translating individual letters into numbers. There are exactly 65 possible characters in our Shakespeare dataset. For comparison, OpenAI uses subword tokens, essentially chunks of words which gives them a massive vocabulary of about 50,000 possibilities. But we're keeping ours simple so we can see exactly how the mechanics work under the hood.
Moving on to Section 2, breaking down the language.
Before we build a highly complex brain, let's establish a baseline with the simplest possible neural network for language modeling. It's called the bigram model. If we plug our Shakespeare data into this simple bigram model and ask it to generate text, well, this quote perfectly summarizes the result. Obviously, it's garbage. It outputs absolute gibberish. And why is that? Well, because in a bigram model, the tokens are completely blind. They aren't talking to each other at all. When the model is trying to predict the next letter, it only looks at the exact letter right before it. It literally has zero memory of the context or the history of the sentence.
Which brings us to Section 3, the power of self-attention.
This is the real game changer. This is the most critical breakthrough in modern AI, introduced in the landmark 2017 paper, Attention is All You Need. This is the mechanism that finally allows our isolated tokens to actually communicate with each other. Think of the tokens in a sentence as guests at a bustling cocktail party. Step 1. Every token emits a query. This is basically the token shouting across the room, "What am I looking for?" For example, a vowel might shout, "Hey, I'm looking for a consonant from the past." Step 2, every token also emits a key. This is them saying, "Here is what I contain." And then step 3, when a query and a key align, when they find an affinity at this party, they interact deeply. The tokens exchange their value, which is the actual information they want to share. Through this incredibly clever mathematical trick, tokens gather highly specific data from their past contexts.
Look at this sharp contrast here. In our initial bigram model, tokens are isolated. They are completely blind to their surroundings. But by using the transformer model with this self-attention mechanism, tokens actively look backward into their sequence history. They are gathering rich context in a data-dependent way. Information actually flows from the past to the present, allowing the model to make highly educated guesses about what on earth should come next.
All right, Section 4, building the transformer architecture.
Once the tokens communicate and gather all that juicy data from the cocktail party, they need time to individually think and compute what they just learned before they make a prediction. We achieve this by stacking some crucial building blocks together. First up, multi-head attention. Instead of just one communication channel, we create multiple parallel channels so tokens can talk about different things simultaneously, like consonants, positions, or punctuation. Second, we pass this through feed-forward networks. This is where individual tokens get to compute and process all the data they just gathered.
Third, and this is absolutely vital as the network gets deeper, we add skip connections. Think of these as gradient superhighways. They allow information to bypass certain layers, ensuring the deep network remains optimizable and doesn't get mathematically stuck. Finally, layer normalization stabilizes the math across these deep layers. We just intersperse communication and computation over and over in blocks.
And here's the best part. When we put all those architectural pieces together, scale it up just a bit, and train it on our Shakespeare dataset for a few minutes on a powerful GPU, boom. We get this, visual proof of progress. Our complex architecture is now successfully generating infinite Shakespeare-like text. Now, I know it's technically fake and a bit nonsensical when you actually read it closely, but look at the structure, the vocabulary, the spacing. It's remarkably close to English. The machine has successfully modeled the language.
Finally, Section 5, from babbling to assistant.
So we've built a mini Shakespeare generator, but you're probably wondering, how do we connect our tiny toy model to the production-grade reality of OpenAI's ChatGPT? Well, the answer lies heavily in this staggeringly massive number, 175 billion. That is the exact number of parameters, the individual synaptic weights, in the GPT-3 model. Our little Shakespeare model? It had about 10 million.
To put that into perspective, the sheer scale required for modern AI is just mind-blowing. We scaled from a 10 million parameter nanoGPT trained on 300,000 tokens all the way up to GPT-3 at 175 billion parameters trained on 300 billion tokens from across the entire internet. We are talking about a million-fold increase in scale. It requires thousands of supercomputers running in parallel. But here is the crazy part. Structurally, architecturally, it is essentially identical to what we just built together.
Now, here is a massive misconception we definitely need to clear up. If you just scale up the model on internet text, you don't get ChatGPT. You just get pre-training. That's a basic document completer that just babbles internet text back at you. If you ask it a question, it might literally just reply with more questions, because it's just trying to mimic a web form. To get an aligned, actually helpful AI assistant, you have to go through a highly complex, completely separate stage called fine-tuning.
The fine-tuning pipeline is how you teach this massive, babbling brain to be polite and useful. Step 1 is supervised fine-tuning. OpenAI feeds it thousands of examples formatted exactly as question followed by answer, so it learns the actual structure of being a helpful assistant. Step 2, human raters look at multiple AI answers and rank their preferences. This trains a completely separate reward model that mathematically understands what humans prefer. And finally, Step 3 uses reinforcement learning, specifically an optimizer called PPO, to basically force the AI to generate answers that the reward model predicts humans will love. That whole shebang is how you get a polite assistant instead of an internet babbler.
So we've gone from a really simple bigram model predicting letters to self-attention at a cocktail party, all the way to massive models aligned by human feedback. And I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The architecture we explored today is relatively simple, right? The magic didn't come from writing endless rules of English grammar. It came from scaling up this exact architecture with massive computation and data. So, if simply scaling this basic structure unlocks the wild, human-like reasoning we see today, what on earth happens when the tech industry scales it up by another million-fold in the years to come? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it finally demystified the black box for you.